And I'm going to spotlight my demo camera. Come on, here we go. Come on, what's going on here? Spotlight, there we go. Okay, so I do not have a printout copy of this. You're not going to really need it. The colors are pretty clear, but you have this copy of this image that we're going to be working with. I do have a black and white. And we're going to, by the way, and does anybody have any idea, since we've got all these green grasses, we're going to start by doing a base painting. So I want you to get a little this is a little canvas sheet, right? You could also work on canvas board or something bigger, or canvas paper if you wanted to. And over here I have palette paper where I can put paint. Here is the source for the moment. And very importantly, here, I'm going to show you, I'm going to pull out these are kind of off screen, but I have a set of brushes here. I'm only going to use one today, and it's this big one. This is a 1-inch brush. I don't want to see you using anything smaller than this, unless you don't have anything bigger, but I want you to use the biggest. So none of this. This won't help you. I won't say this is not acceptable. This is going to drive you crazy. This will also drive you crazy. It's not big enough. This will drive you crazy. This one. I tell you this because I think a lot of people at the beginning of painting go to a smaller brush because you feel like you have more control. And when I say 1 inch, I mean, it's 1 inch. This is 1 inch wide. But in reality, a big brush does a lot of the work for you without you having to, if you can know how to wield it. So I want you to get yourself a big brush. And does anybody have any ideas about what color? We're going to do a base painting in one color. So what color is that going to be?
Burnt sienna.
Burnt sienna. Yes. Yes, burnt sienna or orange if you don't have it. Why is our base going to be burnt sienna and orange? Why? Anybody know?
Because it's opposite green on the color wheel.
Right. So there are 3 complementary color pairings on the color wheel. There is red and green. There is blue and orange. Here, I'm trying to put my palette so you can see it here. Let's do this. I'll put my palette so you can see this. So there's red and green. Not quite here. There we go. All right. There's red and green. There's blue and orange. There's purple and yellow. So very often, all paintings start with a base that's often like the opposite color of what you're working on. That's it. Now I've got it. So it's very, I love this burnt sienna color. It's kind of it's a shiny, I'll show it to you over here. I have a little sample sheet over here. Here, hold on. You can see it's this pretty kind of orangey color, which also can read as red. So when we're starting with the base, we're going to start with that. So I want you to start with a big brush and transparent red, burnt sienna or transparent red oxide. So if you don't have that, let me know now. Let me know now, and I can give you some advice. You can mix red and yellow to create an orange if you would like that, or actually you could totally use cadmium red or quinacridone red as well. Okay, so we're going to start. I'm starting by getting my brush wet, and then I've got this little paper towel here where I'm squeezing off some of the excess water so that it's wet, but it's not super wet. And then I'm literally just going to draw a line across here, which is our eye level horizon line. There are 2 horizon lines here. There is the eye level horizon line, which is where where if there were no trees, the sky and the grass would meet, right? Because there's trees, there's a second horizon line, which is called the natural horizon line. I'll sketch it in so you can see it. And I'm going to try and slow down, so don't worry, but don't hesitate to say, hey, Leah, repeat what you said. I don't get that. All right, so essentially we're just kind of sketching in these two shapes. Get that so you can see it. There we go. See that? That's all we're doing. And then I'm going to take some more, maybe a little bit more water, get a lot more paint on my brush, and I'm going to just layer on some dark color like this, doing these kind of vertical, not kind of, totally vertical strokes. And then I'm going to do the same for the grass. And believe it or not, the same value. We're going to get pretty dark here. So I'll do the grass as horizontal just to sort of show a shift in the mark making. I need a little bit more water. I want to cover my whole, I want this to be really dark. You see that? It's like super dark. And then my last step is to get more water on my brush so that I've got like just a little bit of paint and more water. It's more watery. And I'm going to do a light layer up here for my sky. So we're going to start with that. If anybody has questions on the underpainting, let me know. I'm going to take a picture so you can see it. Come here, you. I'm going to put it down for a second and then I'll bring it back up. And you are free to send a picture of this if you want me to take a look at it. There it is. So what I love about painting is that although there's always something complicated, right? Like lots of wildflowers or tree leaves or whatever, that we always start very simple. We just kind of start with darks and lights at our base. But take a look at that. And I'm going to give, if you guys can give me, well, actually, I think I'm fine. Oh, let's see. Yeah, Grant, try the frog. Try the frog. Yep, I think the frog. And you know, just keep the, what I would do is preserve the orange, like the orange parts of him as if they're white until you get your dark layers in.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so that you make sure you don't get too dark on those oranges because that's the easy thing. My painting, by the way, is dripping because I used a bit of water. I actually love this stuff. This can often provide some amazing texture, but you don't have to have it. If you want to get rid of it, you can just kind of come in like this and scoop up the drips. I don't even want to do it. I like my drips so much. I'm like, no, which one can I sacrifice? Oh, nope, none of them. Okay, how's it going? And by the way, if last night's class was anyone to judge, this is a very, although it's a lot of different ways of approaching this, this is a very, Amber, hang on here. Amber, are you in the, are you on the class thread? You're muted, my sweet. Here, you're muted. Unmute yourself. Amber, are you there?
I was simply passing on the news of the color that I didn't buy.
Oh, which is, so what do you have that's in the red family?
I have a red and a yellow. I'm making
it. You can do red. Just use the red. Just use the basic red. We'll see how that looks. Let's see. And Amber, do I have you? Oh, Shelly, perfect. Absolutely perfect. You got it. Take a stretch break while we go on to the next step. Very nice.
Amber's not in the thread.
Let me get her in. So Amber, I'm trying to remember if I have you here. If I have your phone number, I can add you. Nope.
Okay. Okay.
Hold on a second. I'm gonna email. I've seemed to have trouble sending this link via phone.
Can do it.
Oh, would you? That would be awesome.
Thank you, Jane.
She's about to send you a link to join our WhatsApp thread so you can see our source and see what we're working on. Awesome. I am so happy. And it looks to me like you're in the office or something, or you're in your office anyway. Yes. Very nice. So this is what we're starting with.
I'm so sorry. I can't do it because I'm not an admin.
Here, hold on. I'll do it. All right. I find the group info. Okay. So Amber, hold on a second. What's your email address?
It is amber.jamison, my display name at BuzzFeed.com.
Okay. Gotcha.
All of that at Gmail.
Got it. All right. This should be, that should be emailed over to you. So for those of you who want to prep for the next step, I'm going to move this over to the side and pull my palette over. There's very few colors in this, which is kind of nice. It's kind of an easy thing to mix. So besides our burnt sienna today, we're going to be using the following colors. And I want you to see how I'm organizing my palette. Instead of just throwing something into the middle of the palette and then kind of running out of space fairly quickly, I like to take my colors and put them on the edge of the palette, like so. We're definitely going to be using Viridian green or some green, you know, preferably a dark green. We're going to be using, let's see, we've got green. We'll be using a little bit of ultramarine blue. You'll see me talk about these colors quite a lot. These are really standard colors for my palette. Once you start taking more classes, you realize that every teacher has their own. And I'll label these and send a picture over. A little bit of Quinn red. Definitely some white.
Would
here.
hooker green work for Viridian?
Yeah, it's not. Yeah. It won't. It's not. It's a little yellower. You'll see when you start to do mixing. But yeah, that's the darkest green you've got. That'll work. Yep. Absolutely. And a little bit of yellow. So let me label these colors and send you a picture. This is cad yellow. This is Quinn red, also known as a cool red. If you don't have it, let me know what red you have and I'll tell you what's the closest. Ultramarine blue. Viridian green is great if you have it, and then white And then of course, burnt sienna. So I'll take a picture of this too, so you guys can see it up close. We had problems with the camera last night and could not see any color at all.
How about something like cadmium red?
Cadmium will be the opposite of quin. So cadmium is what we call a warm red. Here, hold on a second. I'm going to take a picture. Do you have alizarin crimson? What other reds do you have? If that's the only red you have, that's what you'll use.
I've got pyrrole red.
That'll be similar. It's kind of warm. It's orangey.
How about
And-
primary red?
Primary red is also fairly orange. So any of those oranges, just put a red down. If you use a cadmium red or a pyrrole red or a primary red, that's going to be more on the orange side in the pink. This red that I've got is kind of pink, so our colors will look a little bit different, but that's totally okay.
I have quinacridone magenta.
Ooh, you might want to throw a little bit of that down there, Jean,
Okay.
just for the fun of it. Yes. Quinacridone magenta is a fantastic color, and it's not one I really have. Let's see here. Got you. All right. So today we're going to be practicing like how you, like when you have this sort of dizzying array of tiny detail, how do you deal with it? I think you're going to like it. If anybody else wants to, I don't want to go too fast. So Ellie, that looks great, Ellie, but make your, did you decide to just do yours vertical rather than horizontal?
I didn't have anything set up or opened when I came running into class, so I
Got
didn't
it, got it. This'll work, it'll work. It'll be slightly different. Go ahead and make this part a little bit darker. You want this part to be almost as dark as here, the grass down there. Otherwise, looking great. I think it'll look cool.
Okay. Thank you.
Sorry, what does that the yellow say?
It says cadmium yellow.
Cadmium.
And if you've got a
yellow.
cadmium, that's great. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to rush everyone, but I don't want to also keep you, lagging behind too much. So let me know, first person who's ready, let me know if you're ready to see mixing. Oh, Emma, lovely. Yep, that's great. Are we, what we're going to do next is practice some mixing. So, and some kind of mark making. So to do that, I like to have, I can bring this up a little bit, I suppose. I like to have my colors here and kind of a fake test piece of paper, a test piece of canvas, so that I can practice laying marks down without really like worrying about it. So the first thing, the first mix that you're going to want, that we're going to lay down on top of these is the very dark green that's at the base of here and here. And that dark green has green, I'm using a palette knife here, and some red, some burnt sienna in it. You could also try mixing a little bit of your other red, this one if you want to, just to see how it looks. And you'll see that if you do that and you lay it down here on the canvas, here is what the basic green with no red looks like. Kind of plain and sort of flat. And here is what, here, it's a little tough to see in this screen. I'll use more water so you can really see it. There we go. That is basic green. And this is green with red. So you'll see that the green with red is a little bit richer and a little bit darker. This is green plus burnt sienna. And this is just green. If you lay some down on your canvas, your test canvas, you will see it, the difference. This is kind of a flat color, not so natural. This has a little bit more of an earth tone to it. So all greens in nature have some red in them of some kind. If you want to get experimental, you can try mixing some green with your other red, whatever red you've got here. This is quinacridone red, and you can see how that looks. You might like that better as a dark, and you're welcome to use it. Oh yeah, that's beautiful, actually. This is a cool red with green. So I want you to lay, in fact, kind of get a bunch of this down on your test sheet. As you're mixing, you can kind of lay down, not just the green, but green but red. You can lay on the canvas, and even a little bit of, like, you can sort of recreate your tree line here, green and red. So this is a really good argument for why we use, if you're looking at what this is happening here, why we use underpaintings. Every time we lay our first color down, no matter what we do to it, it's flat. Can you see how flat it is? We can see through the canvas. It does not have natural feeling to it. So all paintings have a painting underneath. And very often it's something that is, opposite. So you'll see when we lay the green down here, this is still not quite dry yet, but you'll see when we lay green down here, how much richer and darker it's going to look than this here. But this is good for practice. So go ahead and do that. I'm going to take a picture. And tell me, I don't want to go too fast. So tell me, this is your test sheet, kind of what your test sheet should look like. Send me a picture of your underpainting. Send me a picture of your test sheet, whatever you want me to take a look at. And let me know when you guys, if somebody's like, I'm ready to go to the next step, shout it out and I will move. Otherwise, I expect that you are just here doing one of these assignments. So as soon as the first person is ready, I'll go on to the next step.
I'm ready.
All right. So the first thing to think about when you're dealing with something of this complexity is that I don't have to deal with I don't have to try and paint every leaf, right? Every blade of grass or every flower. And that the further back, the further up the page things are, the farther they're away. So the most important thing to pay attention to when we're adding detail in is to pay attention to edges. And in this case, the edge is where the tree line meets the sky. So I don't know if you can see, you guys, all these little bits of detail. Here is where we're going to be paying attention to detail. So what does that mean? You're not going to be painting every leaf either, I promise you. Clean off your brush. Here. I just cleaned off my brush on my pants. It's a terrible habit. I'll do the normal, do this. Dip your brush in the water and clean it off. And take a little bit of blue and some white and mix it. Sometimes I will use a palette knife, which is this, and that's what some people prefer to use. Often when I'm in the middle of a painting, I will actually mix with my brush like I'm doing right now. You could do either. The problem with mixing with your brush is you'd end up having to keep cleaning it. But the nice thing is it gets done quickly, right? I can just come right here. So here, if I'm dealing with this edge, I'm first of all getting paint right up to the edge of where the tree and the sky meet, like this, right? And then I'm gonna kind of blend down. I'm going to take my brush and kind of pull it down a little bit, lightly. I don't know if you see this here. I'm taking the flat end of my brush, I'm loading it with paint. I can probably do 2 or 3 strokes because this stuff is still wet. And I'm just dragging it, lightly tapping it down so that I have a kind of raggedy edge here. Also notice that I'm trying really hard to make sure that my edge doesn't go straight across like this, because that is a very boring landscape scene. So I'm pulling it down further in some places. But it's almost like I'm tapping to create this kind of choppy bit to my painting. So this is what we mean by working an edge. Once I've done that, I still have paint on my brush. So I'll dip it in the water. I'll clean off the blue and I'll load some more green and red on, and I'll try pushing up. See that? Into the blue. I'm kind of pushing up, and I'm in a couple places tapping so that I have a little feeling. So I still don't have to paint every leaf, but I want to have this feeling of kind of soft edges. Look how quickly, it's kind of fascinating how quickly you'll have this feeling of tree just by doing this. There are a few trunks, so I'm going to take some of my dark green, and in a couple places, and I've got it on the tip of my brush like this, and in a couple places, I'm going to tap into the skyline. Not too many, just a few, right? Just to add a little bit of variation of texture. So I'm using, this case, I'm using my brush, but I'm not doing too much of that. Just a little bit. I don't need that much.
Leah, did you say you mixed?
It's just the red and the gray. It's just the what?
You didn't leave any light blue on your brush. It's just
No,
red.
no, it's just red and green. I
Okay.
cleaned it off and I'm using red and green. Yep. I mean, there might be a little bit left. I'm darkening my base here, but I'm just doing a little bit. So it's this kind of tapping motion. Because these trees are far away, see how they're already starting to look like trees? I'll take a picture of it. There's a little bit of glare coming in because of the time of day that it is. There we go. Let me take a picture of this so you guys can see this. If you look up close, there is not that much happening. But when you look far away, we have this feeling of tree. So it's because it's this edge right here where our eye goes to in the painting. We don't care so much about here, what's happening down here. So with painting, it's all about edges. And this, of course, isn't your painting. We're just practicing with the brush right now. We'll get to it here. Oh, what's up? Come back here.
Well, I regret to inform you it's painting for one of us.
What's that?
It's painting for one of us.
Yeah. All of it is painting, right?
No. I went on my actual painting.
Oh,
On
you
my best
did?
painting.
Well, stop. Yeah, I mean, you can. I suppose you could just let it dry and go over it if you're not happy with it. I have not done that yet because it's important to practice the brush strokes before you get into your painting, because there's a lot of like things that aren't super intuitive about this process. So you see how we already have this feeling of tree line. There we go. Anyways, no worries. If you feel confident, you should do it. I'm just trying to break it down. Send a picture over so I can take a look at it. Okay.
So speaking of breaking it down, would you mind sort of like explaining the very basics? Like, are you, obviously we're not supposed to dip our paintbrush in water after we make each stroke or something like that.
Oh, that's that's different depending on, yes. So yes, I was going through that, but I went through it really fast. So yes, when you're first starting out, I like to dip my brush in water and then squeeze some of the excess water out so that I can load more paint on my brush. It's not so watery, right? Like the way I laid down these two sections of paint. Now, when I got up here, I put more water on my brush so that this would appear lighter in value. Okay, so you use more water when you want things to be lighter, and you use less you use water. You go through, you dip your brush in water if you're trying not to much. So in this particular case, when I laid down my blue sky, I cleaned out my brush first. I dipped it in water and I scrubbed it out so that I can mix my blue and my white without it getting too dirty, right? Without getting green in it. And then I dip my brush in the water again to get the blue off so that I can mix green and red in. So I use it to clean as much as anything else. And for most of these strokes, we want more paint on our brush than we do water. So the water is really used to clean. And at some point, you do need to keep getting your brush wet. Your brush needs to be damp. But like when you're applying dark paint like this, right, heavy paint like this, you want there to be, you don't want it to be watery. If it's too watery, I'll show you how that looks. I'm going to dip the brush with the paint on it in water. Look what happens. See that? Although that's a totally cool looking thing, it's a little too watery. It's not what I'm going for. So, and it drips down into the rest of my painting. So most of the time I'm going to want less water, more paint on my brush. Sometimes I'm going to want that watery thing, and that's how I get it. Does that answer the question?
Yes, thank you.
Awesome. And please keep asking these questions because that's what I want. That's what I don't want to presume anybody knows anything. I also don't want to presume you know nothing. So that is true as well. So go ahead and try that and send in some pictures to me so I can see your tree line against your sky there. This is, as I said, still the test. So we're not actually going, we're kind of waiting for this guy to dry. Mine isn't quite dry yet. And by the way, you guys, this class is also being recorded. So it will be up for those of you who are in the Art at Work program. It's going to be up on the Art at Work channel, the YouTube channel, within an hour after class. So you can watch it again. If you're like feeling like, if you're feeling like, oh my God, I'm getting behind, you can watch for a little while. And then if you feel like you haven't caught up, the video will be available so you can return to it later. Or you can also just say, Leah, slow the hell down. Give me some more basics. Is anybody ready to go on to the next mixing layer that we're going to try for grasses? Are you still playing with sky? Give a shout if you're ready to
I'm
see.
ready. I'm
Yeah?
ready to be that person. I don't need to be like pushing us along. But.
No, push us along. All right, so grasses are going to be slightly lighter. Our grass is going to be green and red with a touch, and we're not going to lighten our grass with white because that will create a very flat grass color. So we're going to lighten our grass with yellow. So it'll be red, green, and then yellow to make it lighter. And the grasses, I want my grass to read as lighter than my tree line. So I want enough yellow in my grass, in my green color, so that this tree line looks darker against it. And notice, I'm kind of layering in, once again, not much water, a lot more paint. So I'm actually, here, I'll show you as I pull it. I'm kind of continually mixing as I go along. So I have a lot of paint on this brush. You can see, if you look up close, you'll see this is what we call a loaded brush. It's got a lot of paint. And I'm doing these quick downward vertical strokes. And I'm kind of tapping. So grass, here's what I never want to see anyone here doing. Although it's really the temptation. It's tempting to do this with grass. Wait. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Don't ever do that. That doesn't look like grass. And grass, instead, I'm taking this kind of mixed yellow-green color, and I'm layering it down in kind of rough strokes. You can see in some places there's a little bit more yellow, which creates this feeling of grasses and strokes. And particularly when we're back here, when we're in the back here, we can't see any grasses. There's a way to do individual grasses, but that is not the way ever to do it with this little pointed brush. So practice laying down some grass and mixing in your color. So remember, it's red, it's a little bit of burnt sienna, or sorry, green, a little bit of burnt sienna or red, and yellow. More yellow, so that this grass reads as lighter. Read meaning it when you compare them to each other, one is lighter than the other. So see how I'm just kind of pushing down. So grass is done in these choppy vertical strokes without any real definition until the very end of the painting. Notice that once again, the important thing is that the edge, there's an edge here. The edge is where this lighter grass meets the darker tree line back here. And if you look here on the photo, you'll see it's pretty strongly dark here and much lighter where the grass starts. So we want there to be a slightly lighter element. And then for those who are kind of ready to think about it, here's how, if you're not going to do grass and strokes, here's how you're not going to do flowers. A lot of people like to take take your thing and your paintbrush, this paintbrush, and do this. Dot, 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 dot. That is not flowers. That won't convey flowers. So I want you to put that idea away. Go back to your bigger brush. And instead of, so this is just a wet brush right now. Instead of single flowers, it's more like they're in clusters. So I don't know if you can see this. I'm kind of streaking. I'm taking my brush, which just has water on it, not any paint. And I'm kind of streaking bits of white, particularly far here in the back. And you want to be careful because it's easy to make your streaks too big and too even. Like these are a little bit too big. So let me show you how you handle that. You could alternate your streaks with a couple of vertical strokes. Right, like that. Streak, here, do that again. Streaks, once again, not a lot of water on the brush. Like brush on the white on the tip, streak, pull down. Streak across, pull down. Streak across, pull down. And if you feel like it's too white, you can go back in. You can clean off your brush, go back in with some grass color and push into it, right? to get rid of it a little bit, to minimize. So we'll see, instead of doing little dotty single flowers, we're doing kind of clumps of flowers. And I'm actually taking a lot of grass color and pushing it up into my white streaks so they don't sort of take over. But you see how I start to have this feeling of flower, particularly background flower. And as I come closer and down, I'm still doing this group thing, but I might pull a little bit more, right? As I come closer to the base, the flowers become more distinct. So I might pull, I'm still doing these kind of streaks, but I'm pulling down a little bit farther and giving a little bit more space between. Till we get to about here. So here's what's happening in this landscape. These trees are fairly far away. This part of the field, I'll mark it from here to here, is also very far away from us. This part of the field is closer to us, so we can see a little bit more detail. And down here, which is kind of the bottom of the painting, is where we're the closest. So here is where we play with the detail a little bit more. So to add kind of detailed strokes, and you won't need very many of these. This is one of my favorite tricks. If you have a big brush like this, you're going to take your thumb and your forefinger. This thing's just crazy, right? Can you see it here? Let's see. Can you see it here? I'm holding like maybe 3 or 4 bristles between my thumb and my forefinger away from my brush. And I'm going to dip them into the paint. And I'm going to do a few flowers by just, see, kind of pushing those in here like that. And I can do the same thing. Here, I'll clean out my brush. I can do the same thing with a few strands of grass. So I can mix here. Let me mix some green and red and yellow. So I can mix a pile of that. And then I can take my streaks, once again, about 2 or 3 bristles. And I could do this as well. Let me try up here. So I don't know if you can see, I've got my hand. Here it is. This is yellow paint. This is yellowy green paint. And I can do a few strokes up like this to indicate single blades of grass. It's only going to happen down here because this is the only place my eye really sees the detail. Isn't that like a million times easier than trying to paint every blade of grass? And doesn't it look kind of cool? So I want you to spend a little time. There we go. See that? So I could do maybe 3 or 4, and they shouldn't, by the way, these also shouldn't be like this, 2, 3, 4, right? Not in rows like little soldiers. We want some to go this way, some to go this way, because that's how grass goes. So this is just the practice, right? Just practice pulling those threads apart and making some marks. Flower shapes and sort of grass shapes. Here. And let me know, you guys, if you have questions. I'm going to take a picture of this up close so you can see it, and then I'm going to look at what you're doing. Oh, beautiful, Jane. Jean. The frog's looking great. Yep, it is really cute. Wonderful, wonderful. Jean, you're gonna want, if you're gonna, on the real one, you wanna make this as dark as possible too. So you wanna add a very deep, dark, rich green on top of this area, this red area. If you're gonna go ahead, which is fine.
Yeah, sorry, I had to take a phone call. In the
No,
middle.
no, no, go ahead, go ahead.
No.
And here, I'm gonna take a picture of this so you guys can see the mark making samples. Emma, not bad. Not bad at all.
It's just the bottom. I cut the trees off because
Oh yeah, that's okay. That's
I had a-
okay. No, 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 I'm looking at your mark making. I'm liking it. Do you see how little you have to do to be able to convey waving fields of green? It's kind of cool. Nice. Nice. Yeah, I just wanted you to practice it before we actually get into the real thing. And even though this is kind of a very quick sketch, it already starts to read a little bit like trees, right? A little bit like grasses. I'm going to take this close so you guys can see what these marks really look like. Look, come on. I don't want a video. Hold on. Here. Everything's looking a little bit yellower, but still. And I'm taking a picture of my tree line so you can kind of see. I can help you with that, mixing your colors. So green, how's it, unless it's going well for you and you don't need help, Amber.
I just sent you the picture.
Yeah.
I feel like you'll
You'll see.
not going well. It is go.
Let's see. Oh yeah, too much water. That's why it's good to test, right? That's like why it's good to test. Okay, so for your green, you're gonna wanna mix blue and yellow and then a little bit of red. Okay, and
The
for
first time I
your-
did it was like way, like that's what I did for the first one, and it looked green, but then it like dried very brown.
So you had too much red in it.
Yeah.
So less red, more green. Next, less red, more blue and green. That's just the, oh, good, beer. That's also good. Highly recommend it, beer. But, you know, actually, some of these color mixings are kind of cool, Amber. So keep like working with it. You know what I mean? Like, I like these. These are neat. I can say, this is cool, actually. It's not a total disaster, which is, I know what you're thinking right now. It's actually, there's some good things happening here.
I'm being kind to myself.
It's at its, hey, like it's so unintuitive. I feel like painting is super unintuitive. It is not something that is obvious. I had to learn all this stuff. I had to learn how to do all these things. They were not the things that I thought I should be doing when I started painting. So I feel the pain. So yeah, here's a good thing to think about. If you are, yeah, less water, the better as you're laying down most of these layers. There's really not a reason to have a lot of water on your brush at any point, because we want really thick paint. So we want our paint, so in between dipping our brush in the water, we want to squeeze it with the brush and really load it so that there's all this paint on there, right? All this paint. And the paint isn't, if I push my brush up, the paint isn't dripping off. It's staying there. It's cool. Anybody else want to send what they're doing so far? And I'm adding all of you into my contacts. So it's easier to get you into classes. Okay, since I've got you now. Is anybody enjoying this? But I found this kind of peaceful, this scene. It was like, even though it's tricky to figure out the mark making, the scene itself is kind of peaceful. I like that. Who is 914-338-2293? Is that you, Clarissa?
Clarissa, yeah.
Cool. Send me what you're working on. Oh yeah, you just did. Oh, beautiful. Okay, so Clarissa, I'll tell you what I'm really loving. I love this mark making that you're doing here. I want you to return to the trees. You have created kind of, so your mark making with your flowers and your background flowers and your grasses is beautiful. With your trees, here, let me see if I can bring this up. So your trees, it's too choppy as if each is a separate tree. If you look at this, there's no separate trees here. It's really one big cluster of trees. So there's no spaces between trees. So I'd love you to try to darken a little bit and thicken these spaces down here. It should be all very dark and thick in this area with your dark green. Go in there and darken and thicken that. And really the only place you're going to see kind of tree differentiation is up here, where the trees kind of, you know, in various ways hit the skyline. Beautiful though, I like it. Jane, I love your trees in the background. Great, super solid. Your whites are too strong, right? These lines, it's easy to go too crazy with the whites. So in the background particularly, I want you, here, I'm gonna show you. So you've got these like white streaks like this happening, right? I want you to go in with some grass color and cut up through the middle of a lot of it. Just like scoop up right in there, right? Trim it out so that we see some of it, but not so much of it. Because your mark making is, because your mark making needs to change. Your mark making needs to be different. Let's show it. From here to here, our mark making is much more loose. From here to here, our mark making is a little bit more distinct, right? So it changes. So if your mark making is looking the same up here as it is down here, if it's looking the same level of visible, then we need to change that because things are going back here so we can't see them as well. And then down here is where we have the most detail, the most variation. We've got these light little flowery dots and streaks like that. Nice work, you guys, really great. But by the way, Jane, I love your edges on your, oh yeah, there you go, Clarissa. Yep, yep. Nice. Nice. Beautiful. Lovely. Anybody else want to send anything over? So I like the idea of practice painting. That means, well, A, you have two paintings at the end, but also we have a chance to try out some of this mixing and yeah, figuring out, hey, how much water do I want to use with each stroke, right? Like what happens? And this big brush, which feels so clumsy. What is it? So I am going to go, at this moment, I'm going to go get up and switch my water out, clean out my brushes, run them under the sink. So if you feel like you're ready to start painting on your painting, you may want to do that. I'll be right back. Yes, and you can also grab a beer if you want to. This is a great moment. A glass of wine, shot of whiskey, whatever. whatever. People often say are purists. I feel like alcohol, and I'm not saying you have to. I'm just thinking I sometimes think alcohol and art mix just fine because it takes some of the stress when you're out of something, when you're trying something new. So when you guys are ready, let me know, and we will actually start the real thing.
Leah, where's Hermes?
He is lounging on the couch in the apartment, but I'll show you Muka. Hold on. He is not in the cage.
Jessica has to check on that every week.
I do have to check, yeah. I do.
Make sure Leah's not caging her cat.
Well, I think Hermes might need to be in a cage sometime. It's, what did we say? It was the comfort station? I don't think we called it a cage. I think we called it like a comfort station or something like that.
There's Muka. I just sent you a picture of Muka in her
Aw,
basket.
baby.
But
I love Muka.
Yeah, she's the easy one, the good one. Hermes is fantastic, but he's crazy.
No, but he's in a cage, right? Excuse me, a
No,
comfort station.
He's in a comfort station. He is, yeah, he's in a comfort station. No, he's not in a comfort station. He has the run of the apartment. Muka has the run of the studio. He has the run of the apartments at the moment. All right, everybody ready to try this? You want to try it? Shall we do it? Let's do it. So when we start laying, so now we've got this dry painting, these really cool texture marks on it. So we're going to start with a fairly dry brush. So dip your brush in the water and then you squeeze it out. And once again, I'm going to mix some of that dark color, the green and the burnt sienna together, and come back in and lay it on top. So I want to show you, look at the difference just between these two colors. This is just green on white canvas. This is the green on top of this orange. And look at the difference. And I'm using vertical strokes. I'm loading my brush with a lot of paint.
Sorry, and this is already the green and burnt sienna mix?
This is the green and burnt sienna mix. Yes, so what we mixed in our green and red mix, what we mixed. And I'm kind of laying it down. Notice it's very dark towards this bottom edge here. Because if you look here on your source, you'll see, I'll show you in a second. That is pretty dark down here where everything, that's because the light can't really hit the bottoms of the trees. The leaves are reflecting it. So always sort of towards the base of the trees, it's darker. And if I want,
sorry,
go ahead.
What would you say like the proportion of red to green is?
It should look more green than red. So if you've got something that's looking too brown, that means you have too much red in it. Add more green. If it's looking, yeah. So you want enough red to make it dark, but you don't want it to be so red that it looks like red and not green. Great question. And you'll find that you might have to keep remixing all the time, right? Every time you mix that. And if you want to, no, actually, if you want to, my advice is to also bring that down here into this dark area. So that green red mix, let's darken this base as well. Even though these grasses are lighter, there is a darker green underneath. Look, I ran out of green. I've got to actually get some more here. Hold on. Got some more green here. I'm going to come up here so you can see it. Start mixing. And this can be put across in a horizontal stroke like this. We want to cover. I need a little bit more water. I'm going to squeeze out the excess water. Keep mixing in red. You want it to look like a dark, you want it to look dark and muddy. Kind of like dirt in the ground. Kind of murky, dark, and muddy. Everybody thinks that, you know, that I think one's first instinct is to think that's an ugly color, but it's just a glorious color for supporting all the colors underneath. So yeah, look at the difference here. Already I've got a little bit more to my sample, which does not have the red base underneath. There's a lot of richness here in covering this base. And you should still be able to see little bits of red. Here, I've let it kind of peek out on the top here. Even that's kind of appealing looking, right? These little red. Let's see. Oh, boo-boo. Who is that, Fran? That's Fran?
Freya.
Freya. I love, oh,
Close
the
enough.
power.
She can,
The power goddess.
she can be Fran if you want. Doesn't
No,
matter.
no, I like Freya. That's a good one. Freya's not somebody you mess around with. All right, and here's a picture of how this should look at this point. So it's really dark. All of our paintings in acrylic and oil will start way darker. And then when you're ready, I'm going to clean my brush out so I don't have so much green in it. Right, squeeze out the most of the green. I might dip it in my.
Leah, sorry. The horizontal strokes are also the same color as the.
Yeah. It's all green and red. Yep. Super dark, right? On top of your orange, on top of this kind of burnt sienna base that you've got.
Are we keeping it kind of all the same like levels of paint and letting what we did underneath do the gradient, or
Why don't you can you send me a picture so I can see
yeah,
what you're talking about? I want to say yes, but I want to actually see what you're talking about.
okay. I haven't quite finished yet. So
Yeah. Send it whenever you're done, and I'll take a look. I am letting a little bit of my red come through. I am, like right down here, over here on the side.
Leah, what's the green you use?
Viridian green.
Viridian, okay, because I'm
Yeah.
going to buy some.
Oh yeah. You'll love it. It's a wonderful green. It's a kind of a neutral green. It's a green that's a little bit more on the blue side, but it's not as blue as a phthalo. It's a wonderful green for mixing. It's one of my favorites anyway. As you'll see, when you start to study painting more with different people, you'll see everyone has their own every teacher has their own, every artist has their own colors that they become enamored with. But I find Viridian green to be great for mixing and a lot of the basic things that we do. Anybody ready to start laying in the sky? Let's do it. All right. So I've cleaned my brush out. It's doesn't have any green on it, so I can mix white and blue for the sky. And once again, I have a lot of paint on my brush. It's fairly dry, right? Because if I'm holding my brush up, there's no dripping, right? So there's no water. It's more paint than water. And now I'm going to start with these kind of almost a drag, a vertical drag. So I might do 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to tap out these little white edges that are showing up as lines. Drag, drag. In some cases, I'm going right into the tree line. And then I'm tapping. So see, I'm doing this vertical drag because now I have to get more paint on my brush. Drag, drag. You can see there's this little white line. I don't want that there. So I'm kind of going over the middle of it and tapping it to get rid of it. So what I'm not doing is this. Let's see if I can demonstrate this on my thing. What I'm not doing is this. Scrub, 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 scrub. See, going over the same place. Because if I do that, I lose my base. I lose what's happening in my base. If you can see how flat that looks as I go over the same place over, it's real easy for us to compulsively paint over the same place over and over again. It's kind of like a nervous habit, like chewing your fingernails or, I don't know, tapping your pencil or whatever, you know, chewing, whatever it is. So you want to try to kind of move around your canvas so you're not overworking. We call that overworking. And what I've also, so notice my tree line now already has this feeling of kind of roughness. And I'm trying to get rid of the lines from my brush going down, going vertical. So I'm kind of tapping all over. Let me take a picture of that. Let me take a picture so you can see how this looks. All right. Oh yeah, that's looking nice, Emma. So see how I'm already creating this kind of ragged edge between the tree line. Okay. So Emma, I want, oh yeah, that's looking great. Yep. So look here, I'm going to do a sort of far back version so you can see the whole thing. So here's how the whole thing looks with the sky in it. Sorry, it's sideways. I don't know why that is. And then here's how that edge looks up close. I want you to see it, to really see how I kind of scruffed up the edge.
And
So
sorry, just to clarify, Leah, it's the tapping that makes it like that?
make what, like what?
How you're saying you're scruffing up the edge, that's the tap?
No, the tap is really to get rid of this line. So if you'll see here, as I pull a stroke down, there's usually like a little white line here. The tapping is to get rid of that. The scruffy edge comes because I'm lightly holding my brush and dragging it into the green.
Got it. Thank you.
Got it? Yeah, great questions. Reuters people, didn't I tell you the BuzzFeed people were going to give us good or smart? This is good. I like this. Great question. So that's the beginning of the scruff. And then later we'll be doing some tapping, but with the green to create more of that. So once you've kind of got this edge like this, now I'm cleaning out my brush so it doesn't have any blue and white on it anymore. Might have to dip it 2 or 3 times, squeeze it a couple times to do that. I'm going back in with my green and my red. And now I'm going to come up here with green, and now I'm tapping. Kind of, see that? To create sort of what feels like a leafy, so I'm tapping. I'm barely here, right where the edge is, so that this edge doesn't look so sharp. So it looks a little bit more like leaves. And then the last thing I'm going to do is mix some green and red. Put it on the tip of my brush, like right here. And I'm going to do a couple of trunks extending up, not too many, but a couple, extending up using that. So you see, this gives me a feeling of, well, a few of those trunks coming up. And I don't need very many. It's wild. So really, the vast majority, now we are going to do, once we add the grass in here and the flowers, we have time, we're going to go back and add a little bit of lighter green to the trees. We're going to wait on that for the moment because this is looking so good right now. I think so. It's interesting. You get used to your paintings looking kind of what they call, what they say awkward. How they say it? Awkward. Here, I'm going to send this over so you can see it. I need a little bit more burnt sienna. Here. What's nice is how little work we actually have to do to create a feeling of depth. Here we go. And it's a little bit glary right now. Let's see if I can move this over. Basically, as the sun moves through the studio, I have to keep moving the painting so you can see it better. Oops. Here is where that, here is how that kind of looks. Send it over when you guys got it. I'd love to see. Send it if you like it and send it if you don't like it. If you don't like it, I can probably help you. And then we're going to try laying some grass in on top of this. But I want to wait, make sure everybody's kind of rolling. It's amazing, even though this is a field of wildflowers, how little time we're actually spending on the wildflowers. Yeah, everything is kind of set up for the wildflowers. Ooh, nice, Clarissa. Very nice. Yep. Yep, that's starting to look really pretty. I like it. Are you happy with it?
Yes, I think.
Nice, Jane. Oh, Jane, I love the background. I love the trees. I love the way the trees are meeting the background back here. This is great. You're
Yeah,
still
we're just
having,
gonna ignore the field. We're
yeah,
not
yeah.
gonna do
Okay,
that.
so you're gonna,
I'm just gonna cut it off and burn it.
Here, so here is where we're gonna, is anybody ready to see, do you guys want me to move into the fields right now? Shall I move into the fields? So for those, let me move into the fields. Tell me if you're, I'm happy to repeat this, right, for anybody who needs it. So the fields, if you remember, we have green, burnt sienna, just like our base, and then we're adding yellow to lighten it, not white, but yellow. If we add white, it's gonna flatten the color. Oh, I'm gonna need more yellow, I think. We'll see. And as I start to lay down my grass, I just wanna make sure that my grass in these short, choppy strokes, places where my yellow didn't mix on my brush too much. What I'm really paying attention to, the edge I'm paying attention to here is that the tree line should be pretty dark at the base, and this grass should look lighter. I can already tell. And see, I'm basically just doing kind of choppy strokes. So you can, Jane, take your green grass, mix your green grass and go over most of that white. Go over the top of it. I need more yellow. Where's my yellow? Oops. By the way, in about 2 weeks, I'm going to switch over to using oil paint for the demos. But those of you who are new to painting and those of you who have just stocked up on acrylic, you should totally stay with acrylic. Do not feel like you have to switch over to oil unless you want to. The demos will be pretty much the same. I mean, oil behaves differently, so it's good not to use it unless you kind of, I mean, I can show you how to use it, and that's why I want to use it. Actually, it's for the people who want to use oil, but acrylic, people can do acrylic just as well. Whoops, why is that so? Huh. Looks like, it says my internet connection is unstable. Hang on, should get better in a minute. So see how this green sits on top. Look at how nice this green looks in comparison to this one. See how sort of flat this green looks compared to this beautiful, rich green. This is more the field of green that we think of when we're thinking. So I'm not painting individual grasses. I'm kind of painting clumps. I'm bringing it down here. Get rid of that dark. And I'm letting a little bit of my, I'm letting more of my straight down marks show, right? Like these lines, because I feel like they indicate grass in a simple way without getting too complicated. Right. And then I'm letting it stay darker down here, down at the base. Down at the base, it's a little bit darker here. So there's your grasses. You're going to want some of that green, grass green for the next phase, because you're going to clean your brush out now. And let's try this again. So if you've already got a streak of white, you're going to dip your brush in some white. And you're going to try in a couple places, lightly tapping these kind of streaks. See how small these streaks are? Because they're so far back. See how they are not in like a little row like soldiers. They're kind of laid out randomly. So as I lay these out, even still, I'm feeling like they're a little too strong. So Jane, don't worry, you're not the only one who's got these strong flowers. So to remedy that, I'm going to take some of my light grass paint, my light green grass paint, and push up into the lights. So you see, so they're not, so from the bottom up, kind of up there. So I've kind of disguised them with little bits of green. So it's like I've laid them down and then I'm pushing them back. That looks better, right? It definitely looks better than ... As I come in a little bit closer, as I come down into this closer section, I might do a streak and then a pull down. Streak, pull down, streak, pull down. So here, my flowers get a little bigger. Back here, they're almost indistinguishable. You can't really see them. They're just sort of straight lines. Here, I'm doing a little bit more pulling down. Streak, I'll show you that again. So I've got a bunch of white on my brush. Streak lightly. See how I'm kind of it's almost like I'm skipping over. It's like I'm skipping a stone, right? And then pull down, pull down. Even then I feel like, too much. So I'm going back in with some of my light green grasses and pushing up a little bit. See, so I can always like kind of push back. If I feel like the white is too bright, I can go in with grass color, light grass color over the top and kind of push it back in. And then, let's see. Yeah, and now is the time for this technique here. Wait, I'm trying to show it, right? So I'm between my thumb and my forefinger, I'm pinching just a little bit of white and I'm pushing it in so I really load it. There's a lot of paint on that. And then here's where I'm kind of creating some, and I don't have much control over this thing, which is actually good. It gives me more of a random feeling, right? Like that. So over this front half, I've got these flowers kind of randomly placed here. And then I'm going to squeeze this off and I'm going to take some of my grass. I need to mix more grass color. Actually, I need more green. A lot of green. So with paintings like this, it's not about painting everything in there, right? You're going to make yourself insane wanting to do that. So I'm here, I'm mixing some grass color. And now I'm going to pull off just one or two strands. Pulling off one or two strands here. And now I'm scooping my grass color in and pulling up like that. I might even go in with more kind of straight yellow. See that? So now I'm creating just a few blades of light grass. I don't need that much. And they're going this way and that way, right? The way grass does. And then here's where, like, if you want to, you can add, so Jean, with that magenta, mix a little bit of that magenta with white. Quinacridone magenta or pink, right? Give yourself a little bit of pink. Maybe I have a couple pink flowers in here. And you can also kind of streak in a few pink streaks. Oh, so this is interesting. You're kidding me. Again, I'm having this problem. You can't see that this is pink. All right, hang on, I'm gonna pull my camera off for the light balance. I'm just finding it's interesting. I'm going to take a picture of this so you guys can see it, and then I'm going to pull my camera down and see what I can do to adjust. Oh yeah, Emma, yeah, great tree line. Really lovely. Now get your grass in. Lovely. No, don't use white in your grass. The white is for the flowers. It's not for the green of the grass. The grass should be lightened with yellow. Excuse me. I'm going to pull this
Bless
down.
you.
Yes, thank you. Because I had problems with my camera last night and it stopped showing. There we go. It just stopped showing. So this indicates actually, I don't want my camera here. This tells me that this is maybe a tablet problem, a camera problem, a Zoom problem, and not a camera problem. But let's see. Okay, Pro. Yeah, because on here, wait. Ugh. If this will be better. All right, let's try it. It might be a Zoom problem. Oh yeah, there we go. There's a little bit. Ugh, no, come on. More pink there. You can see a little bit more of the pink in there. Still not fantastic. Strange. We did a pink lily in class last week and that didn't do so badly. That looks a little bit more like pink. But this looks totally white and it's not, it's pink. Anyway, you can sort of spread in different color flowers if you want to. And also using this technique, you could sprinkle in like a couple of yellow flowers and maybe a pink one if you wanted to, just to make sort of more variation in your fields. Yeah, it's definitely a Zoom problem. Okay, so I'll send you a picture of what these colors look like. You totally can't see them on the screen right now. Here you go. This is how much color is in this painting right now.
Leah, what color did you use for the blades of grass? Is that it's a light green, yellow green, or white green?
No white, there's no white green. Oh, with the yellow green, I used yellow with a little bit of green in it.
Okay.
Mixture in it, yeah.
Oh, that looks totally different.
Yeah, isn't that insane? And I
That's
just looked at
nuts.
the camera settings on the actual camera of the device to see if the white balance was off. I know, we can't see anything. It's ridiculous.
Wow, that
I
is
know,
really dramatic.
I know. And I don't understand it because like I said, we painted I'm just out of curiosity.
But your flowers
It's a
look
Zoom
beautiful.
problem. We painted a pink flower last week.
I feel like that's a big problem in the Sunday class too.
Yeah, I think it's a Zoom problem. I think
So
it's
weird.
It is weird. it's just a problem. It's like there's nothing that we can do about it. And I really didn't notice it until I started laying this. Look at, so this is this hot pink. Look at what that looks like.
It's crazy.
I know, isn't that nuts?
Mm-hmm.
Hot pink. It doesn't look like anything. It's not even being, it's reading as a green. So anyway, I may have to find another platform other than Zoom if they don't, if I can't figure out a way to troubleshoot that. We have WhatsApp, so you guys can see it. Is anybody finding this kind of fun? Like when I don't know about you, but when I look at this, I just groan thinking about all of this business, having to get it in. And when I look at this, I feel much happier because I'm like, oh my God, there's like a way to convey all these flowers without having to paint every single one. So if you have some time and you want to add a little bit more variation to your tree line, you can also, I'm going to do this now. Yeah, you're right, Janet. In the Sunday class as well, we can't remotely see the color the way the originals are. Well, let's go. We have WhatsApp. So you can go in actually with some lighter green. So a yellow down green. And in a few places on the top, kind of brush in a little bit of a lighter green. You want to keep this area down here real dark. So you don't bring those light colors in up at the top, up, down, and below. They're kind of more towards the top. Some are kind of circly, right? So if you want to, you can you can add this sort of extra layer to your trees. You also want to make sure that this stays darker than this, whatever you've got. There's some kind of sweet, there's a couple of like light tree trunks. I wonder how that would look to add them in. Might work. Once you're added into the thread, by the way, it's always going to be here. So you'll always have, if you want to follow a lesson on video, you can find the corresponding pictures in the thread for that class. Even if don't happen to make it to that class. So you could do this. Jean, how are you liking that magenta?
Apparently she's enamored.
Yeah. What are you working on today, Jessica?
Another little landscape.
Will you send it across when you feel happy with it?
Yeah. What time
And
is it?
Janet, I'd like to see, we've got about, oh my God, we've got like 10 minutes left 10 or 15 minutes left in class.
Okay.
It's crazy.
All right. I'm going to be done in a minute. I didn't realize we were that far into class.
Mm-hmm.
Time
Going
flies.
by fast.
Time flies. Janet, I
Yeah,
want to
that
see
really
how
went
your
fast.
how your big painting is coming along. So
You'll
send that
see.
over.
Be patient.
Okay, be patient. I'll be patient.
I don't like being patient.
All right. Fine.
I want to see the painting.
You show me yours and I'll show you mine. How about that?
Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it, Janet. Let's do it.
Do it at the same time. Come on.
Hold on. Oh, I got to make sure it's like last little tweakies. Okay, I'm going to call it done. I think. I don't know. That something's bugging me. Damn it.
Okay, Leah, I thought I'd cut myself and I was bleeding, but it was just the magenta.
Isn't that a fantastic color?
It looks like blood.
No, you know it looks like blood is burnt sienna or any earth red.
Yeah.
True, that really does look like blood.
Oh, can I tell the bathtub story?
Sure.
Some of you have heard this. I was toning some panels with burnt sienna or Venetian red, which is
A similar kind of.
very similar to this one. It's an earth red. And I got some paint on the bathtub, but I didn't really worry about it. And my daughter was much younger at the time, and she got very scared because she said, "Mommy, there is blood all over the bathtub," because it does. It looks like blood.
Well, I told you all the story about when my dog sat on the pastel, right?
Oh yeah, and he had like sort of red all over his butt.
He
Yes.
sat on my peony painting.
Oh.
And I thought he had to take him to the vet. He thought his butt was bleeding.
That's a funny story.
Animals and their fascination with paint.
Leah, could you go over the like bringing some of the grass green into the trees again, please?
Sure. So like it, you're gonna sort of mix a green. Here, hold on a second. I'm saving Carissa's email number into my phone, so it's easier for me to add her to things. So I did that by mixing some Viridian green with red, the same base, and then adding a little bit of yellow to lighten it slightly. And then I kind of sprinkled it through the top. I'm still I don't want to cover all the dark, right? And I want this area down here to stay dark. But in some of the sort of upper areas, I kind of brush in a little bit of the lighter over. I can also kind of bring it up into the sky a little bit too, using that tapping, right, motion. That will also sort of add a little depth to my sky. I think the key to all of this is you make sure that whatever layer you lay down, when you put stuff on top, you don't completely cover, right? The top layer. You can, if you look closely, you'll see, so I have bits of red still coming through that are really enticing and charming in the way they interact with the green. They create a little bit of accident. I'm not trying to put them there. They're just there because I'm not heavily covering everything up. I'm utilizing what's already down here. There are areas where red is coming through in a kind of subtle way. And it's up here too. And that helps the painting feel like it has a little bit more, like those are little splashes of light or something. Oh, Jean, not bad at all. Lovely. Oh, Jessica, that's beautiful.
Leah, I didn't overdo it with the flowers.
You didn't. I like it.
Okay.
I mean, if you wanted to in the background, you could maybe add a little bit more green in, but it doesn't. Maybe a little bit of green, more green grass in over some of that color back here.
Okay.
But I like it. Jesus, Jessica. Oh my God. Okay, look at Jessica's, but don't be intimidated. This is not a photograph. This is a painting. It's crazy.
Jessica has been doing this long
For a
before.
long time.
They have been painting for a
Clarissa,
long
not
time.
bad, not bad. So Clarissa, I think you could use, I like these little sort of sprinkles of flour. I think we could use, I see this line here of green, right? And I'd like to not see that, this dark green line here that's kind of underneath your flowers. So I'm wondering if you should go in with a little bit of your brush like this and get a little bit of dark green, the dark green mix on it, and kind of push up in here to get rid of, or to bring like the green all the way down. Get rid of that line. Nice. Very nice. It's fun, isn't it?
Grant, look at Grant's frog.
Let me see.
I love the frog.
I love it. It's awesome.
Oh, Grant, well
Thanks.
done. Well done.
And Jessica, this is beautiful.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Thank you.
I love
Yeah,
this
Amber,
one.
so fun, right? Totally fun.
I have no idea what I'm doing and I have no green, but sure.
So
We got
I
there.
like it. And what I would do, just to sort of emphasize that some areas are pushed back and some are not, is you have some, so back here, your whites are a little bit, see how they're popping on my screen? These whites back here. So I would add more green on top of them.
Well, I
In
ran out
places.
of green, but I could make more green.
Make more green. Tree line's looking good. I know, it's so fun, isn't it? He is really adorable. Oh, Jesus, Janet. That's really coming along. So if you look at Janet Roberts' piece, you can't really miss it. They really
No,
are
you
fun.
can't ever miss it. It is
Oh,
amazing.
Jane, that's looking great. Nice, nice pushing back of your flowers in the background. I think that's working out really well. Beautiful. It's beautiful.
Janet, that bird
Nice,
is
Emma.
awesome.
Nice,
I had
Emma.
a lot of fun with the bird.
Yeah.
Yeah, the bird is incredible, Janet. And Emma, very nice. I like it. I feel like this design in the front kind of reminds me of like a Ukrainian scarf, you know, like some beautiful, like, it's stunning. It's so pretty. It's lovely.
I don't
I
know
love
what a
it.
Ukrainian scarf looks like, but thank you.
Look it up. Look it up. They have these beautiful, like, floral Ukrainian scarf patterns. They're really pretty.
Do you have one, Jane?
I have several of these scarves. Yes.
Are you? I'm right, Jane? Oh, Janet, that's crazy. It's, boy, is that reading well.
Yeah, Janet,
And
it's
you've got,
amazing.
and look at how far you've got with your daffodils and your
Today
flowers.
was Daffodil and Dogwood Day.
I can see it. You did it. So you guys, Janet works a lot with figure models. So this is this painting composition is based on a figure drawing that she did in a class, and then she created, I don't know if you can see it here, it's totally crazy. She created a whole surreal scene around it.
I'll send you the marker drawing.
Yeah, you can see. Yeah, it's insane, right, Clarissa? I know, it's absolutely gorgeous. It's also the biggest painting Janet's ever painted. So we're totally stoked about that. Great work today, you guys. These are wonderful. They make me happy. Yeah, nice, nice, nice. I know. So, and don't worry if like your painting doesn't turn out exactly the way you want to, or if you're not quite sure exactly what you're supposed to be getting to. The idea of these sort of sample classes is that these demos that we're doing is that you're starting to get ideas about how to use the brush, so that when you approach everything, you kind of have this idea of what this is. It's all practice. Yeah, everyone is really talented. I totally agree. It's like really wonderful to see it. And it's not like this is an exclusive thing to just a few people. Everybody can be good at this. If you want to, you know, if you want to, you will get better.
Leah makes everybody talented.
It is really a lot of fun. It is really a lot of fun. You guys are all really good. That's what it is. All right. So believe it or not, it's almost the end of class. So I'm going to pull down the spotlight. I would go into gallery view, and let's just hold our pieces up. And actually, if you don't mind, I'm going to take a photo, because this is really, I really like what everybody did today. Here, hold on. By the way, if I have you. Oh, yeah.
Mine's too big.
All right. Okay. Come on. Don't be.
Those are great, guys. They look so good.
Why am I not? Hold it up. One more second. I'm sorry. I don't know what the heck is going on here. Now my phone there. Okay. Wonderful. Thank you. They look great.
Watercolor?
Yeah, he did what Grant did watercolor. And we were
Yeah.
looking at this and thinking this would be really hard to do in watercolor. So he just
I
picked
love it.
something else. Yeah.
Thank-
So yeah, so anybody who wants like a list, so for the next, until the end of March, I'm going to be doing acrylic, oil painting, things like this. So if you would like a copy of the color list that I use, I can send that to you. So just let me know, drop me an email, and I will send it over to you. This lesson will be on, oh, and one more thing. Anybody notice a shift in how they felt from the beginning of the class to the end? Does anybody, Amber's like, I feel good. Yeah, I feel good, right? You should feel a little different. Like you might have started this class tired or frustrated or feeling great or whatever. You know, you might have started this class like totally like zinged up, and you should feel a little bit like more in flow like now, because you've been focusing really hard on what you're doing, and you don't really you're kind of unsure about it, right? So you're kind of practicing, you know, you're feeling like it's requiring a lot of your attention. That's really good for your brain and really good for your body and very good for stress. So, all right, you guys, there is a class tomorrow at 8 a.m. Let's see. For New York people, it would be 11 a.m. We'll be doing the same thing, but a different subject. So a different field of flowers. If you want to try this again, jump back on. Saturday is beginning drawing, starting at 9:30 a.m. In Portland, where I am 3 hours later for you guys. And then Sunday is pastel drawing. So if you want to try that with Marie, it's pretty amazing too.
Are we gonna do this wildflower?
No,
singing
she's picked out one like with grasses. We're kind of trying to focus on grasses and fields. So she's got this kind of water scene with lots of grasses and trees and things.
That's what we did last time, wasn't it?
Similar, but different. Yep. More focus on the grass, less on the trees in the background. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, you guys. Thanks a lot. Great work today.
Good night.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Leah.
Yes. Thank you.
Bye,
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye,
Thank you so
everybody.
much. Bye, guys.
Yep. Take care.